I feel like, Boots, a whole motion is built off of Terence Crawford. He should thank me, to be honest. I feel like he's a hater.
Okay,
if I'm gonna be a 1,000%.
It's the Real Report show. It's all good. That's what we do.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think he's a hater.
Well, Terence Crawford speaks on Jaron Boots Ennis, says that Boots and his team keep using his name, trying to build up Boots' career, and says Jaron Ennis is a...
It took just one brief statement to completely redirect the conversation surrounding boxing. Suddenly, fans weren't focused on power, technique, or fight results. Instead, they were dissecting personalities. Terence Crawford didn't simply bring up Jaron "Boots" Ennis. He gave everyone a glimpse into how he genuinely views the young fighter. Almost immediately, the boxing community divided into two camps. Some believed Crawford was simply being completely honest, while others interpreted his words as psychological warfare or evidence of something much deeper. So what did Crawford notice that everyone else seemed to overlook? And could those few words permanently change the way fans see Boots?
Everybody want to see. Yeah. I want to do it.
Do you respect him as like when he's like, I got a couple fights left, I'm at the end, I'm only trying to get mega fights, so...
I understand it, but don't lie or cap to the net and make it seem like I had the opportunity to fight you and I didn't. I never did. You know what I'm saying? And then that one time that I did, we said they called and we said we never heard nothing else back about it. So
right.
I mean, I respect it though. I mean, get your money. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. But don't be capping.
One of the most fascinating aspects of boxing is how something said outside the ring can sometimes create a bigger reaction than what happens during an actual fight. A single interview or unexpected statement can generate more controversy than an entire championship bout. That's exactly what unfolded when Terence Crawford decided to speak publicly about his feelings toward Jaron Ennis.
Who they are cancel out each other as far as height. They both switch hitters, lift, and everything. All of that cancels out each other. So they are literally the same people, pretty much. The only difference is Crawford done been in the big stage against big fighters so many times. And also, with age, he didn't beat up his body, so his age is actually good. He got the grown man strength. He not just grown man strength, but he built on top of that. Like, look at him at 135. He was a little scrawny dude. He wasn't a big dude. Now look at him. He ripped up everything. He's strong. So
sure.
I feel like he got everything, all the experience, all the knowledge.
Most fans expected the usual respect you'd hear between two elite fighters. Instead, they got criticism, pride, and one unforgettable comment that immediately split the boxing world. Crawford didn't limit his criticism to Ennis' abilities inside the ring. He also questioned his intentions. According to Crawford, Boots and the people around him had spent years generating attention by constantly connecting Ennis' name to Crawford before taking the situation even further by labeling Ennis a little hater.
It's about the Crawford fight. I'm tired of answering questions about it. He already said millions of times that he not fighting me or looking my way, so I'm just tired of answering them questions, and if a fight happened, it happened. I wanted it to happen, but if not,
Timing right now with somebody like Crawford and Spence, they not interested, and I don't think you could really knock them. And some people say, well, how you gonna say that about Canelo but not Crawford? It's a difference, bro. Terence Crawford fought the best dude in the division. Did he not?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You can fight number one, then you can go fight a B-level guy, C-level guy. You should not fight top fighters ever.
It didn't take long for social media to erupt with reactions. Some fans felt Crawford had finally expressed something that others were too hesitant to say publicly. Others thought it was strange to see one of boxing's most accomplished champions seemingly bothered by a younger fighter who was simply attempting to establish his own identity and legacy.
In retirement, Terence Crawford is very bitter and bored, and I would even frankly say jealous of Jaron Ennis in retirement, because how can you have accomplished as much as Terence Crawford and be just so unhappy, about insecure with your career? Because he was on Twitter yesterday, and he tweeted out all of his accomplishments. So let me read them to you, so we all know the caliber of fighter we're talking about here when we speak about Bud. He tweeted the following, and I quote, 42-0, the former #1 best fighter in the world pound for pound, 5-division world champion, 3-time undisputed, 4-time unified champion, 2-time fighter of the year, 3-time ESPN Fighter of the Year, 20 consecutive world title fights, and a Hall of Famer soon to be. Sorry, but not sorry.
The real mystery isn't simply figuring out whether Crawford or Ennis is right. The bigger question is why this rivalry feels so personal even though the two fighters have never shared a professional ring. To understand why Crawford's comments spread across the boxing world so quickly, you have to go back to the beginning of Boots Ennis' rise. When Ennis first started making headlines, fans immediately wanted to compare him with an established superstar. That's simply part of boxing culture. Whenever a young fighter begins dominating opponents, fans naturally start searching for the next great champion. Mike Tyson was compared with Joe Frazier. Floyd Mayweather was frequently compared to Pernell Whitaker. Canelo Alvarez was measured against Julio Cesar Chavez. It's a tradition that has existed for generations. Boots received the same treatment. His athleticism, confidence, and smooth stance-switching ability reminded many fans of Terence Crawford, whose versatility had already become legendary. Every impressive Ennis performance seemed to lead back to the same question. Could he eventually become another Crawford? Eventually, that comparison became almost impossible to escape. Bud's name appeared in countless interviews. Podcasts repeatedly discussed a potential fantasy matchup, while rankings and analysts continually returned to whether Boots was ready to challenge Crawford. For years, Crawford appeared largely uninterested in those discussions. His attention was focused on becoming undisputed, defeating Errol Spence Jr., and eventually moving into higher weight classes in search of bigger challenges. While fans continued talking about Boots, Crawford mostly allowed everyone else to keep the debate alive. And that's exactly why so many people were caught off guard by Crawford's appearance on The Real Report. Instead of dismissing the comparisons, he addressed them directly. Crawford argued that Boots should actually appreciate being compared with him because those discussions helped increase Ennis' profile. He even suggested that if he had never reached the highest level of boxing, fans wouldn't have had an elite champion to use as a benchmark for Boots. In Crawford's view, every future superstar benefits from being compared with someone who has already established greatness. After all, Crawford himself was once compared to Floyd Mayweather, and those comparisons naturally came with his own success. Crawford believes Ennis has benefited from that same dynamic throughout his career. But that explanation wasn't what ultimately grabbed everyone's attention. The interview suddenly became much more personal. When Crawford was asked why he and Boots never seemed particularly close despite being compared so frequently, he smiled, paused for a moment, and called Ennis a little hater. That one phrase instantly became the headline. Suddenly, fans weren't debating who would win inside the ring anymore. They were questioning whether Crawford genuinely has personal animosity toward Boots.
That's nature and myself, but I don't worry about coming back to prove anything, because me coming back and proving something to people that it doesn't matter, but never matters. For that being, they would say, oh, well, he only fought Xander, or they'll come up with some type of excuse. But to credit Boots, like, he's a tremendous talent. And
what made the entire situation even more intriguing was Crawford's refusal to fully explain what caused him to reach that conclusion. He never pointed to a particular interview or identified a specific moment when Boots had supposedly disrespected him. Instead, Crawford suggested that he pays close attention to people's behavior, body language, and subtle actions that most people simply overlook. That left fans trying to connect clues that Crawford himself never completely revealed. His supporters quickly defended him, arguing that elite fighters spend their entire careers studying opponents and learning to read personalities, meaning Crawford may have noticed something the public has never witnessed. Critics, however, remained unconvinced. They pointed out that Ennis has consistently praised Crawford and repeatedly recognized him as one of boxing's greatest fighters. Rather than personally attacking Bud, Boots has spent years asking for an opportunity to settle the rivalry inside the ring. That distinction quickly became one of the biggest debates across social media. There's also another reason this controversy carries so much significance. Crawford has reached a point in his career where legacy matters nearly as much as individual victories. He's already considered one of the defining fighters of his generation, and becoming the first male boxer of the four-belt era to become undisputed in 2 weight classes permanently cemented his place in boxing history.
The former 5-division world champion, 3-division undisputed champion, the greatest fighter of his generation and his era, undefeated, first ballot Hall of Famer, Terence Bud Crawford, 42 wins, no loss, no draw, 31 wins by way of knockout. Terence Crawford was called on FaceTime yesterday, as I did a video about it this morning, and he was asked about the fight and the situation between himself and Jaron Boots Ennis, right? And Terence Crawford responded as he's supposed to. I would have knocked Jaron Boots.
After almost every dominant Crawford performance, the same question kept coming back. Could Boots actually defeat him? Imagine hearing that question after practically every fight. Eventually, even the most accomplished champion could become frustrated with those constant comparisons. Still, critics of Crawford believe the entire situation ultimately benefited both fighters. If Ennis had never emerged as one of boxing's brightest young talents, would fans still be discussing the fantasy matchup now that Crawford has moved into heavier divisions? Probably not. That's why many believe both fighters received additional attention from a rivalry that never actually produced a fight. In different ways, they helped keep each other's names relevant. Predictably, social media erupted with reactions. Crawford supporters argued that Bud had earned the right to speak freely after accomplishing almost everything possible in boxing. Team Boots, meanwhile, maintained that Ennis shouldn't apologize for pursuing greatness or for being compared to one of the sport's modern legends. The debate continued because confidence has always been one of Crawford's defining characteristics. Throughout his career, he has walked into hostile arenas, defeated undefeated champions, and repeatedly followed his predictions with victories. So when someone with Crawford's resume describes another elite fighter as a hater, the boxing world was naturally going to pay attention.
Jaron Ennis is a hater, and he went as far as to say that Jaron Ennis, he built his whole motion and his whole clout off of the Terence Crawford name. And this also comes after the fact that the day right after Jaron Ennis beat Xander Zayas in his finest hour, Terence Crawford did an interview and pretty much said that if he ever fought Boots, he'd be 10 steps ahead of him and things like that. But at the same time, Terence Crawford's the same guy that will criticize people like myself or people in the media and say that the media never gives credit when...
Maybe Crawford genuinely meant every word he said. Perhaps he was simply joking around. It's also possible that he wanted to make the interview more entertaining. Without knowing what was truly going through his mind, nobody can say for certain. One thing, however, is undeniable. His comments accomplished what the biggest boxing rivalries always manage to do. They brought the debate roaring back. Ironically, the fight itself might never happen. Crawford has continued pursuing major opportunities in the heavier divisions, while Ennis remains focused on establishing himself among boxing's elite and continuing his rise. Their careers appear to be moving in separate directions, yet the comparisons refuse to disappear. Fans still imagine what might have happened if both fighters had reached their peaks at exactly the same time. Would Crawford's experience and exceptional ring IQ have been enough to neutralize Boots' explosive style? Or would Ennis' youth, speed, and athleticism have overwhelmed Bud? Nobody truly knows, and that's precisely what keeps the argument alive. Perhaps that's also why emotions occasionally enter the discussion. Established champions don't always enjoy hearing that another fighter could eventually replace them, while rising stars don't want their accomplishments reduced to simply following someone else's blueprint. Both viewpoints are understandable, and there are valid arguments on each side.
Be Bud.
Okay.
I don't think Boots could be Bud. Nah.
Okay, now, is that a case where he's
Boots could hurt him though?
He's not experienced enough?
Boots got some bullets. So Bud ain't scared of a fight. So he
Hell
can't
no.
hurt him.
The thing about Bud, I think about, like Bud just put out a message on Instagram. He gave Boots his credit. I don't know what platform was on, but he was like, yo, he's a threat for anybody in the ring.
Yeah,
he said the only difference to me, I'm 10 steps.
In many ways, this controversy reveals just as much about boxing fans as it does about Crawford and Ennis themselves. Fans love comparing different generations, debating greatness, and trying to identify the next superstar before today's champions have even stepped away. Sometimes those comparisons generate incredible excitement, but they can also create unnecessary tension. Crawford's recent comments reminded everyone that world champions are still human beings with real emotions, not fictional superheroes. They hear the comparisons, notice the headlines, and follow social media far more closely than many fans might realize. Whether Crawford genuinely believes Ennis is a hater, or simply interpreted certain moments differently is something only Bud can truly answer. Yet one interview accomplished something that countless promotional campaigns struggle to achieve. It reminded the boxing world that behind the belts, enormous paydays, and historic accomplishments are competitors who still experience genuine emotions. Crawford never needed to throw a punch to create a huge impact because his words alone generated an enormous reaction. Whether you believe he was protecting his legacy, expressing an uncomfortable truth, or simply adding fuel to the boxing conversation, one thing remains impossible to deny.
Clowns is competition. That's what this generation of fighters don't understand. It's competition. You are in a competitive sport, and people gonna want to see the best fight the best, regardless. So this is barbershop. This is how you get promoted. This is how you get recognized. These are the people that support you. The barbershop conversations. This is how it starts, right? And so people wanted to see that fight, and there's a disconnect where Jaron Ennis feels like Terence Crawford avoided him. As I told you guys, my part of it, Terence Crawford feels like Jaron Ennis.
That's everything for today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to Boxing Hub, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll be back with more boxing news, heated debates, and fight analysis in the next video.